Hello BookTube, Bear from Bear Reads Books. I'm in my comfy chair for this one. Today I've decided to do the dilemmas of a book nerd tag. I think originally I was tagged by Sean from Sean Bookmaniac for this one. It could have been Sharon from Sharon Goforth. I'm not 100% certain. I probably should check that out, but I'll put the original down below. This is a really great set of questions for you to get to know me, for me to talk about my reading obsession. So here we go. Number one. I do have to keep taking my glasses on and off. How do I store and organise my books? So all over the place. I have 3.5 years ago I moved interstate from one state to another state. In my last house I had bookshelves galore that stored all of my books all over the house in beautiful wood panelled bookshelves. In my new house there was none of that. I had to buy little bookshelves, so I have a couple of bookshelves dotted throughout the house, one in the bedroom, one in the living room, one in the family room, all over the house, and one in the office. And then I still have about 9 or 10 large boxes of books still sitting in my garage, which is for a person with an obsession with books like I have is upsetting. And I sometimes go out to the garage all by myself and just look through my boxes of books. There is a plan for the future to build a library in our front room, some relaxing space with couches and just wall-to-wall books. That is in the works right now, and as that project progresses, I'll show you how it goes. But at the moment, books everywhere. Dilemma number 2. How do I keep track of what I've read and what books I own? 2 questions there. How do I keep track of what I've read? Goodreads, like everyone else. I started recording my reading on Goodreads 2 years ago. That's at the beginning of January 2018. So all of 2018 and now all of 2019 so far. How do I keep track of what I own? I don't, and I'm very, very bad at doing so. I sometimes buy a book that I already have in my collection, and with books sitting in boxes all over the place, it's really hard to remember what I have, and even because there's so much stuff in my collection that I just haven't read yet. So I do end up buying stuff again. But Goodreads for me, what prompted me to do that, what prompted me to start, is at the beginning of 2018 or just before that, to be perfectly honest with you all, I gave up drinking. And at the beginning of 2018, like a New Year's resolution, I thought I would recommit myself to reading. It was a way to centre myself. It was a way to refocus myself and refocus my reading, refocus my life. And so I made that commitment at the beginning of 2018. In 2018 I read 55 books. 2019 I'm looking more like reading 75 books. And 2018 was all about the rhythm of reading, and to get back into that, regular rhythm of reading. And 2019 has been about sharing that rhythm, either by having conversations on Goodreads with people or now with this YouTube channel. So I've never mentioned that before, but that is my journey of reading in the last 2 years, and it's included Goodreads and this beautiful community. The third one. Borrow. Do I lend my books out? Not generally. I do sometimes to a select few. There are only a few of my friends and family that read the types of books that I do. One of which is the guy that owns the coffee shop near my work that I buy a coffee from every day. We have very similar reading tastes, and I know that if he borrows a book, I'm going to get it back in very promptly, and I'm going to get feedback, and we're going to have a discussion about it. So he currently has my copy of Convenience Store Woman, which I'll be getting back next week. And but generally, no, I do not borrow. I do not lend out my books. Not because I'm unkind. It's just no one reads like I do. Number 4, how do I buy or acquire my books? In any way I can. I do like the physicality of a book. I like picking it up and feeling its weight, its heft, whether it be hardback or paperback, used or new. I don't mind, but I still like the physicality of a book. Considering the volume I read, ebooks are a necessity, as is second-hand books when I can get them. And sometimes I buy online. I don't live in a main capital city, so my range of bookstores that are available to me is smaller. So sometimes I do rely on buying from online stores. My go-to online stores, Book Depository, like everybody else, and probably there's an Australian version of that called Booktopia, which is an excellent store, and I purchase from either one of those. I try to find the physical book before I go online. Recently, it's been things like Ducks Newburyport, which I couldn't find anywhere, and Samantha Schweblin's Mouthful of Birds, which simply didn't exist in any bookstores that I could find, so I had to order that online. Number 5, how do I respond to the "how do I read so much" comment or similar comments? I do get asked this quite a bit. How do I read so much, or how do I find the time? And that's the same with anything you choose to do. If you choose to be involved in community groups or sit on the board of something, or any sort of activity or playing sport that takes a lot of time, they all take time from your day, and it's about prioritizing what you love doing. And I happen to love reading books. I don't happen to love team sports, but I do like exercise and all those sorts of things, but it does take time. How do I find the time? I find the time because it's enjoyable to me, so I do what I love doing. I think that's a pretty good way to live your life, is do what you love doing as long as it doesn't harm anyone and doesn't harm yourself, hence not drinking anymore. So I think that anyone can find the time, and it's not just reading for me. I mean, I'm involved on committees and boards for various community groups. I obviously have a working life. I have a Tuesday night Dungeons and Dragons group where we get together, have dinner and play Dungeons and Dragons for 3 hours. And on top of all that, I have kids and family and a wife that I need to spend time with, that I love spending time with. So there's all of these things, especially when you have a family. There's always going to be all of these things. And strangely, I still watch lots of TV. I still sit down and binge watch something on Netflix. My current obsession is re-watching the television series Homeland, and I've ripped through about 5 seasons in 3 weeks. So I still have time. I think everyone has time. It's just about prioritizing and making sure that you give yourself that time. Now, number 6, how do you pick your next read? I don't. I think in my mind I have a loose TBR order, and it constantly is getting reshuffled with new purchases or things happening, or even just how I feel. That's why Murakami has not come out to be read since I bought it on the day it was released earlier this year. It's really a loose idea in my head that is constantly evolving. I don't know what else I could possibly say about that. It's there. It has to match your emotions. It has to match the time you're able to give it. And with October and all these readathons, I'm not going to pick up something like Ducks Newburyport, or I'm not going to pick up an author that I don't think I'm going to pick up something really challenging, because there's so many other things going on. So it's having those ideas constantly in your head, I think. Number 7, how do I pick what books I bring on vacation with me? Now, I have done a whole video on this already, but I'll touch on it again. But if you want to see the whole video, it was around me going to Japan and how do I choose books. But I think those ideas and that premise is the same no matter where I'm going. But you do have to assess what type of holiday it is, what type of vacation. Is it going to be a really busy vacation where you won't have time to do much reading, no long flights involved, no long train travel involved, then small books or not a great deal of books. If you've got long flights or long train trips and evenings spent doing not much at all, then you're going to have some time to read. And then the balance is, do I take physical books or do I manage my reading using an e-reader like a Kindle? And for me, it would be 1 or 2 physical books and then manage the rest with a Kindle. Pretty much all vacations. I think carrying around one thing is much easier than juggling many things. So I think an e-reader works beautifully for vacations, and that's how I generally manage. And my poor e-reader these days doesn't get neglected, so taking my e-reader on vacation makes perfect sense. I give it some much needed. I give my e-reader some much needed attention. Number 8, annotate. Do I write or highlight or mark up my books in any way? Believe me, I've tried, but no. I even bought little page tags, getting ready for October and all the reading I was going to be doing. And even when I started doing videos, I bought little page tags, and I think I've used them 2 or 3 times. I've marked a few Sunday sentences that I want to do, but generally no. I feel bad writing in a book, especially writing in the margins. I couldn't do it at university in my textbooks either. I used to write in a pad and not write in the margins of my university books. I just felt bad doing it. I felt like I was abusing the poor things. So I still don't do it. And I do sometimes get second-hand books that have been written in the margins, and I find that really nice, and I love reading what other people have written in the margins of a book. I don't feel bad, but I would never do it myself. Number 9, new or backlist. Which do I prefer, new releases or backlist books? Either or. I think I've mentioned this before, but I buy the new releases, but by the time I get to read them, they're a backlist book. They're not new releases anymore. And I'm always looking at books that I haven't read. So I'm always looking for great books that I haven't read and recommendations from people, either on YouTube or anywhere else in other forums, Goodreads. If people recommend me a book, I'm happy to take that. And that could be a classic hundreds of years old, or it could be a brand new release that everyone's talking about. And other than that, I just hunt around. Whatever I find, I find. If I have the money, I'll buy it. If not, I'll wait for it. Or I'll order it online, or I'll find another source, or anything at all. But generally, either or, anything and everything. Number 10, sequels. Do I read books as they are released or wait for an entire series to be published before reading one book? I've been burned with series and sequels recently. So I'm not really happy with series and sequels. Generally, I will buy them whenever I can. I don't really have a priority to buy a series as they are released, and I don't read a great deal of series books anyway. I guess the last few years have been punctuated by this Australian resurgence that I've spoken of before in mysteries and thrillers and detective procedurals, and they're very good, and I've been eagerly awaiting them, and I have purchased them pretty close to release, but they're not really a series. You could read them as a standalone. You're not relying on reading all of these detective novels in order to understand what's going on in the most recent one. So it's not that kind of series. The most recent series that I tried to read, and I've been burned horribly, was the Illuminate files, the YA J. Christoph and Amy Kaufman series. That's and I liked the format of the first one, so I bought the second one, and then kind of like Daisy Jones and the Six, the format that attracted me to it at the beginning was what drove me away from it. Once I got into book 2 and book 3, and by the end of book 2 I just abandoned the series. So now I've just about finished book 2 and an unread book 3 that I'll probably never go back to. I really ended up disliking that series, so it kind of turned me off series. I have started a few series and then only read the first one, but I don't eagerly await the next. I just don't read that volume of books in a series to have a thought either way. That was it for Dilemmas of a Book Nerd. I seriously am a book nerd. If anything, this tag has confirmed what I already knew, in that I, Bear Costa, am a book nerd. Yeah, I think you knew that already too. Thank you for joining me today. It's been a lovely day. It's beautiful and sunny outside. I'm going to go and get some sun. Enjoy the rest of your day or weekend or week, wherever you might be, and I will talk to you again soon. Thanks. Bye.